it always gives you a little warning to say that you
I understand.
I just thought it important to tell you.
I don't need you to patronize me, or condescend me, whatever.
It's
do whatever you want to me.
It's important to me that I treat you with the respect and esteem you deserve by warning you that you're being recorded. I don't want you to think I'm creeping or anything, like just creepily recording you whenever.
You all ready to do this thing?
Okay, fine. Rush me ahead. Welcome everyone to the Tom Colohue channels. Slightly different intro to what I'm used to when I'm joined by Nick Barbati, the man himself, but we're on a slightly different format. My name is Tom Colohue. You know me. These are my channels. And right here alongside me, wrong side, right here alongside me is my friend and colleague, Nick Barbati. See, on these platforms, I can be a little nicer. Nick, welcome. Welcome to the show and welcome to the channel, mate.
I am not your friend. Or if I am a friend, you really don't have many, because this is how you think friendships go. This is abusive. This is not friendship. This is doing things what you got to do to get by.
So friendship,
Tom, you got to treat me with respect. You have to treat me with kindness, love, and respect, and grace. That's because I'm a guest in your living room.
That's a lot of lists of demands there. It sounds like a hostage situation. I feel like you're trying to hint at people that you may be in trouble there. So I'm going to smooth it along before we get to the point where you start running away. We are going to be previewing Clash at the Castle today. It is literally tomorrow when this video goes live. So we know that we have a big show coming. We've covered a little bit of it on Nick and Tom's for PWTorch, but we're closer to the event. Things have started moving a bit more firmly now. We've had ourselves a Monday Night Raw. I'd imagine we've seen some of the spoilers for Friday night's recorded SmackDown. We know the landscape now going into things, so there's a bit more to cover. And I want to start, Nick, without saying what, has there been any change to your predictions from when we spoke about it on Nick and Tom's on Saturday?
Right. So we did speak on Saturday. Absolutely. Some major changes to my predictions. And that's an exciting thing, right? Like you also, I don't necessarily need to see a show where I need to be surprised all the way through. But I do like the feeling of uncertainty and possibility. I think that's the hallmark of any show being, worth watching outside of a work rate perspective, is to be excited about, does my guy or gal win? And or was I there to be gotten? And I think that those are, this is really a trademark of the Triple H era at this point, is the feeling that anything can happen. And I think that was something that, over the years, we've heard someone like Eric Bischoff say over and over again was a key to WCW's success back in the day, was that feeling of unpredictability. And I think that you can have that and have that be really damaging. But I think they're having it right now in a really strong way of having it as seem like it's must-see TV, or in this case, a must-see premium live event. And also think that even if there isn't a grand debut or a grand surprise, that there's stakes to the matches. And I think that is something that I'm heading into Clash at the Castle feeling like. And, I'm very happy to give up a beautiful Saturday at the end of summer here in New Jersey to be able to watch a pay-per-view. And that says a lot about the build.
Fair. Given the changing time for US audiences, it certainly does land slap bang in the middle of what should be a fun day over there. So it does require a little bit of extra commitment on that regard. UK audiences, we've been watching at 1 a.m. We're already fully committed. I also find it very interesting how often people are referring to Eric Bischoff at the moment, because a lot of practices that he brought in are starting to pop up a little more in Triple H style, that feeling that anything can happen. The appearances of so many surprises. We have seen so many. Even today, we saw Tony Khan advertising the idea that, after All Out, you never know what the landscape's going to look like. And you get that feel now. The feeling that he's been capturing over there for AEW for a while is now there for WWE as well. I will say that one of my predictions has changed, but it is one of the big ones. And I suspect it's one that you've also changed.
Right. Well, I think, before you get off too much on the Eric Bischoff thing, I think in some cases, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And in other cases, it's just annoying. And I think he's very flattered by Triple H. And I think he's very annoyed by someone else.
Let's start then to get off that path by talking about the match that was not yet announced when we last spoke about it. This is the Judgment Day match that we were expecting. We were expecting some incarnation when it came to Judgment Day. Peter Insider had previously reported that we were looking at Edge and Beth Phoenix versus Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley at this pay-per-view. However, that is not what we've landed on. I've been speaking on spoiler warning about the fact that they're trying to spread this out a little further. So what we have is Edge and Rey Mysterio against Finn Balor and Damian Priest. We will supposedly have Dominic and Rhea Ripley at ringside, and I cannot imagine for a moment that they are not directly involved in some capacity. Brand new one to discuss. What do you think about this one?
Well, I think there's a hunger for Dominic to turn heel on his father. I think people are, writing that on every message board, every tweet they possibly could. I think that is something that people are expecting. I am not expecting it at this show. I think if anything, this lays the groundwork for conflict that exists there. But I also think it's time for a major Judgment Day win. I think it's entirely necessary to add credibility back to the group. As I said to you this past weekend, Tom, I don't think it's a group that needs a multitude of wins, but I think they need key wins. They need to be seen as credible. They need to be seen as threats. And in particular, I really think Finn could really use a signature win here. And I think this is going to be the time. I think Dominic will cost his father's team the win, but not in a way that is a signature heel turn. If that is to come, I almost think at this point it's too obvious, but we will see. But I'm going for Judgment Day.
I would say we agree completely on this one. The fact that we have so much interaction with Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, what we saw on Raw, where he's clearly not willing to take that strike, despite the fact that Rhea Ripley was clearly goading him, there's actually something of a connection building there. I think back to, and this may be me reading a bit too much into it, but I think back to when the Wyatt family were taking on the New Day, and everyone was in line, apart from the fact that Austin Creed, I'm too used to up, down, down, Xavier Woods was not quite in line with the rest of the New Day. He was a little bit enticed. He was a little bit entranced. He was a little bit hairier than usual. Now, there's plenty of other examples of it. Look at Street Profits right now, but I do feel that's the best example that I've got, pardon me, at this point in time.
Yeah, well, you're looking hairier than usual too, so it's all good.
I try my best. Well, when it comes to these platforms, I got to show off for the guest a little bit. Got to grow a little bit of fuzz, Dominic and Rey, I think, are going back into the tag division. Their build or their split up doesn't seem to need Judgment Day that much longer when it actually does happen. So for now, I think Rhea Ripley will be the catalyst, but in no way will she be the end point for this breakup. Rey and Dominic have a feud coming. I suspect they stretch this to WrestleMania. We tease it further here. We see an actual breakup around Royal Rumble time when they can eliminate each other from the Royal Rumble. And then we get a WrestleMania match that, who knows, maybe Rey's last, maybe continues. But I do think Dominic for a while now has needed a bit of a change. Because the
haircut needs to change. Well,
I do feel that's sort of a tribute to Eddie, with the way that Eddie Guerrero did have a very similar hairstyle way back when.
Yeah, well,
tributes
can last for a certain amount of time.
Edge, of course, we've seen Beth Phoenix involved. We've seen Rhea Ripley involved. Edge and Finn Balor are not finished here. I do think they will continue until we do get a singles match. But today, well, Clash of the Castle, I think it goes to the heels for this one. So certainly I think there'll be a big pop for Edge. There'll be a bigger pop for Finn Balor, I suspect.
Okay.
UK crowds are very interesting. I think you'll quite enjoy them. I've been a part of a UK crowd that, after a good wrestling match, shouted very loudly, "Are you watching Vince McMahon?" Until eventually Vince McMahon got on Twitter and said, "Yes, please be quiet. I am watching." It was quite fun. There's also the Randall Keefe chant, if you're aware of that.
No.
That's for Randy Orton, because his name is Randall Keefe, and we found that hilarious.
Okay.
They're a strange bunch. We have Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins, and even after Monday Night Raw and the fight in the parking lot, and honestly, a very good promo from both men, I feel, I'm still locked in that Seth Rollins will be winning this one. He came out the stronger for me in that promo. He showed an element to his character that we haven't seen for a while, and I think the only way to sort of lean further into that character and that development, rather than staying the same, is to pick up the win here. What do you think for this one?
So that makes good point. That is a good point, I should say. I, however, am flipping. Oh. I'm doing a flip, and I am going with Matt Riddle. Emphasis on the mat. I think that at this point, what I do think is interesting about what we know about the Triple H era of storytelling, whether he's literally the one writing it or not, is there does seem to be, there's an increased wins in the hometowns. There's, continuity of storylines, all of that. But also what I really want to see here, and I do think is important, is that baby faces are able to get wins when someone goes too far.
Yeah.
Now, that is something that, ironically enough, Triple H as a performer has been the beneficiary of that not actually happening. However, I think that it is something that really is necessary, I think, for the credibility of baby faces. And someone who is as vulnerable as Matt Riddle is, right? He is teetering on his level of importance. He's teetering on his level of relevance. Is he going to be a main eventer, or is he going to be an upper mid-carder? This is the decision-making moment. That promo on Monday was fabulous. I would challenge you, though, Tom. I think Seth Rollins has a more defined character that allowed him to act his way through that scene. Riddle is in a total transition of character, and the sheer emotion he was able to sustain for a long period of time, that's not easy. So I think he was impressive. I think a win is important here, and then a post-match beatdown to continue it works just for me.
I don't disagree that he was impressive. I feel it's certainly possible that I'm still stuck in Vince McMahon mindset. And in my head, we're just waiting for Randy Orton to come back for Matt Riddle to kick back into gear. Okay. Obviously, that's not the situation we're actually in. It may be that I'm stuck on that. But for me, Seth Rollins has been languishing for a while. He's been having a few exhibition matches.
Sure.
He's a lot more likely to pick up wins now. I feel it would be more telling for me about the future direction of the WWE to have this particular change. But that's just how I'm personally seeing it.
Okay.
For the Intercontinental Championship, we have Gunther versus Sheamus. I don't know what level of involvement we're going to see from Ludwig Kaiser, Ridge Holland, and Pete/Butch/Dunn, but we'll have to wait and see on that one, because honestly, given the scrap that they had on this week's SmackDown, I don't think we'll see any actual involvement. I think we may see a clean, fair match where the two of these beat the hell out of each other. And for me, Gunther comes out the winner. Showcase for Gunther, opportunity for him to really show what he's all about with someone who will go toe-to-toe. And also, to be fair, these are two names well known to UK audiences. This feels sort of like Mansoor in Saudi Arabia, when they wheel him out every now and then, just a way of saying, hi, here's your guy to cheer. Everyone else is our guy, but here's your guy to cheer. I never thought I'd say that about Gunther and Sheamus, and yet here we are. I do think Gunther is picking up the win for this one.
Well, I do think that regardless, the audience is looking for a very particular match here. They're looking for a hard-hitting match involving two wrestlers. They are not interested in the Butch and the Kaiser of it all. Mm-hmm. So if they are going to start off the match out there, my prediction is they don't stay out there. There's a ref that throws them in the back, and then you're just left with the two hosses in the ring. I think you are dead on. I don't think there's a possibility that Gunther leaves without the championship, nor should he. And I think that that's not really up for debate. What is for debate is how big does this match feel? How main event does it feel? Because Gunther has been impressive. He has felt special. He's felt like from another era, from another world. This is the real test on how does that translate to a large stadium show where there's, this is a signature match of it. And sure, he's going to have the interest and the investment of the audience. But this is key in that, does it feel like it translates everywhere? Does it feel like it's the start of a next chapter for him? I think it will. I think he will win. I think it will be definitive. It will be longer than his typical matches have been, and that's a good thing and a necessary thing. And it's going to be hard-hitting. Sheamus is going to leave with a lot of respect, but Gunther's going to leave with the championship, and it's going to be a win.
I think you've raised a good point, particularly about the scale of this match. Gunther's very well seasoned. He's wrestled a lot of big names in a lot of big places, but this is definitely the biggest match of his career so far.
Yeah.
Now, in my interactions with him, it's very clear that he won't personally be fazed by it. But in this environment, you do have to up your game. He leaves a lot out there. What has he got in reserve that we haven't yet seen? I'm excited about that as a prospect. I think you raise a very good point there. I'm just excited to see, will Sheamus bring out the best in Gunther? Because I'm confident that Gunther will bring out the best in Sheamus, but we will have to see how that plays out.
That's an interesting take.
We have a SmackDown Women. You have something to add?
No, I was
Oh,
looking at you.
You look like you were
I was
getting
breathing.
excited. Looked like you were,
I was exhaling.
Well, how dare you? How dare you derail with your breathing?
Well, I only had to listen to
Sorry,
you
no,
burp
you're a
3
guest.
times. I
You're a
only had to
guest.
listen to you burp 3 times as this thing
That
started.
is fair, and I apologize. I apologize for that. But what I
The
will say,
belching show.
if you're of course permitted to breathe, you're a guest. By all means, you go ahead. We have a SmackDown Women's Championship match. Liv Morgan defending against Shayna Baszler. I am definitely not flipping on this one, despite the build for Shayna Baszler and the fact that Liv Morgan and Shayna Baszler have not featured on SmackDown, at least last week, and are not expected to feature this week unless there is a vignette for them. While Shayna Baszler has been built, I do think Liv Morgan escapes once again with the championship. I am concerned about the booking here. I will say that very confidently. I am concerned about how weak Liv Morgan is being made to look. But at the same time, I don't see a conclusive win for her. I don't see anything definitive. I think the fans will turn even further, but I do think that's what we end up with. Liv Morgan escaping with the championship.
I'm flipping. As you know, I predicted
Ooh.
Shayna. And this is a real, as I said, a tug between the heart and the head, because I do think it's Shayna Baszler's time. I think this is the only time for her. And it is the right time, first of all, for a title change to take place on this card. I think it'd be necessary. And I also just think Shayna has momentum that she hasn't had in a very long time, and a backstage area that is more supportive of her than she's been since she's been on the main roster. All of that taken into account, this doesn't feel like a title change is coming. And it's not like a surprise. It just doesn't feel like that's where we're going here. I think the bigger story is about Ronda Rousey. And when it's about Ronda Rousey, I don't think Shayna Baszler's role is going to be as big as someone, including myself, would hope it is. I think it ultimately leads with Ronda destroying Liv down the line, not necessarily playing sidekick to Shayna, which is the two options really here.
Yeah.
If I really look at where we are right now, it's going to be a Liv Morgan hooker by crook win that leads to her facing down the belly of the beast in Ronda Rousey.
With Clash of the Castle taking place in the UK, there's a few people who've definitely traveled and a few people who may have traveled. The WWE obviously liking to keep some things in reserve. One person who has definitely traveled is Charlotte Flair, and one person who we don't know about is Ronda Rousey. Do you think we'll see any involvement from either of those two people?
I don't know. I mean, I think Charlotte Flair doesn't fit in this storyline right now. I don't see her as a natural counterpoint to Liv Morgan. I almost feel like for as shallow of a roster that we're dealing with right now with the SmackDown Women's crew, it also doesn't need Charlotte right now. I actually think she complicates things to too much of a degree. If she does make a return, I think it'd be in a backstage or in-ring segment, but I don't think it's in this match. Why would it be?
Agree with you that I do think Charlotte versus Liv is what's coming next. I do think we'll see some interaction between Ronda and Shayna to further build Shayna just by association and give Liv a little more time with the championship before Ronda comes back for it.
Right.
But I do expect we will see Charlotte in some minor capacity. I like what you've said there. I think it will be something backstage. The good old-fashioned, look, here's a legend, cheer for her element that they usually go for with the Bret Harts and the like for me. A 6-woman tag is taking place. Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka on one side. Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Skye on the other. Now, Control, as they've been referring to themselves, have taken over a little bit over the last few weeks, but did take a pretty definitive blow on Monday Night Raw when they lost the finals of the Tag Team Championships to Raquel Rodriguez, or I believe she's going back to Gonzalez at this point, and Aaliyah. That said, Bianca Belair, the current champion, does not look to be defending it immediately soon. And I've got to say, Bayley is right there nipping at her heels. So a lot of potential options here, a lot of intrigue available as well. Who do you think has this one?
Tom, I'm flipping. Last week, I had said that Team Belair was going all the way. And it felt like we were going there, especially off of the heels of what seemed like an obvious Kai and Skye championship win. Without that happening, I do think that they do need some heat put on them, not as if they're struggling out there and that Bayley's not a heat magnet in her own right. But follow me here. I do believe the image of Bianca Belair standing in an arena with a win, holding her championship high at the end, we've seen that. We've been there, done that. I think the growth can go and take place a bit more on the heel side here, and it would be necessary. And I just think it would strengthen their overall vibe. I do think we're headed quickly to Skye and Kai holding the championships. And so I think this will be that next point here. When they face who their next opponents will be, use your imagination, they need to come at it from a point of strength. And I think a key win here actually almost helps explain away the loss on Monday, which is you can't always win. And the big win here would be, feel more meaningful if it was more necessary for them. And I think that this is a necessary match for them. I could see it maybe opening the show, but if not, I do think that I would go through what you're referring to as control. I'm going to call the actually only definitive 6-person team in this match.
I am also flipping for essentially the exact reasons that you've laid out.
But where did you flip?
This is my flip.
I don't know what you're flipping from.
Oh, I was going Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka previously.
You were. Look at you copying
Yes,
me.
Absolutely. This is my flip for the exact same reasons, and I'm actually going to go a little bit further. I'm going to go back to matches such as The Shield versus Evolution, The Shield versus the Wyatt family. When it's not just a win, it's a mauling. It is definitive. I think Alexa Bliss and Asuka are both getting hurt, and hurt to a point where they can't be directly involved when it comes to the next Monday Night Raw. Now, I won't go into any further details of what I expect there, moving on. But I do think what we're going to see is an isolated Bianca Belair. We are going to see her stranded and separate, standing alone, as it were. And I do feel that with Alexa Bliss and Asuka's use recently, I don't really see where they go from here, even if they do win the match. Whereas Bayley is definitely coming for Bianca Belair. So having that isolation, no longer having Becky Lynch there, no longer having Alexa Bliss and Asuka there, suddenly Bianca Belair is being hunted. Now, there'll still be some revenge on the agenda. I think we'll see a Bianca Belair, Aaliyah, and Raquel versus Bayley, Dakota, and Io Sky match at some point. But I think the allies are going to start to dry up for Bianca Belair because Bayley, Kai, and Skye will start to eliminate them as needs must. Personally, I think that's the best way to rebuild them after the loss. I think it was a screwy loss anyway. So they've certainly got reasons and mitigation for it. I do think they'll have the tag team championships in no time. I'm also quite happy with the surprising loss.
Yeah.
It wasn't what I was expecting. And I like that.
Sure.
I don't think it'll take them long to get it. No, not at all. I don't think it'll take them long to get it. I think they're being built as stars. I think this is the star maker. This match right here. I'm very excited to see what they do with it.
Yep, totally agree with you.
This leaves us, of course, with our main event, which I'm in no way flipping and will never flip because I've said no to the champ before and I cannot do it anymore. Roman Reigns will be defending the WWE and Universal Championships against Drew McIntyre. Now, we do not know if the Usos will be in attendance. There is certainly a suggestion that Sami Zayn will be in attendance. The Bloodline are active, but we are pretty sure that Paul Heyman will not be in attendance after being F5'd by Brock Lesnar. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. I personally am sticking with Roman Reigns retaining both championships, at least into the draft, which is around the time before Survivor Series, I personally expect, when I see the championships being split. What do you think on this one?
All right. Well, it's hard to disagree with you, Tom. And quite frankly, there's no real reason to. I think that WWE is in a really unique spot here because they are in the first stadium show in the UK in 30 years. And they want this to be a memorable show. It's going to be more than tempting. It's quite frankly expected to have a satisfying ending. But how do you have that when it's the same ending you've been seeing for 2 years? So I think the challenge here is to leverage the work that has been put into Drew McIntyre to raise him up to the level that he currently is at. And he is much higher than he was 2 months ago. I can't say that he's not. So I think that he will be losing. I think he's going to be losing again by hook or by crook, whether it is the bloodline that can or will be able to be there. I would not be surprised for returning Paul Heyman But I think it ends with a definitive pin or knockout by Roman Reigns that then leads to, or let me back up. When I think about what makes sense is to be the right person to interfere, to me, it is Karrion Kross. As when Karrion Kross debuted and when he was there, I think the second week, I said to you, Tom, I said, how do you keep up the momentum with this if he doesn't feel special if he's just already coming out interfering every time Drew McIntyre's there, or he's attacking him, or he's in the frame and all of that. And he was completely scaled back at that point. He has not been really at a point where people, I think, as an audience, are tired of him, really fully understand him. He is infinitely going to be more interesting than a lot of people on this card based on the novelty of how he's been presented. He is the person to rightfully cost Drew McIntyre the match and then have Drew McIntyre chase back all the way up to the backstage area and have people give him that cheer like the warrior is out looking for his lion and off he goes. That leaves a wilted champion, Roman Reigns, with 2 championships. Now, a temptation might be out there to say money in the bank, right? There's going to be no money in the bank used here. I don't anticipate this isn't the right audience. I don't think this would be the right scenario. I would be surprised, not shocked. Okay, let me just say that. That's where I'm at. I do, however, think it is ripe for a major return. And I think that is the setting. I always tell Tom, I know nothing. I don't want to know nothing. I don't pretend to know anything. But if you are saying of how do you make this show special? How do you make it meaningful? How do you make it memorable? You can't take the championships off of Roman. That would have been the way to do it. The Intercontinental Championship does not reach the level of memorability that it did back at the Wembley show. So that's championship is not it. And it's also, again, not the right match to lose. So if there is a major return, if it is a Bray Wyatt, if it is a someone, this is the way to do it. You have Roman Reigns stand there. You have him not standing tall. You have him standing weakened. Lights out, lights on. There's someone staring at him. And that's how the show ends. And that's my prediction. Take with it what you want.
I am not going to sit here and disagree with all that much avarice to it. I think you've laid out pretty much a strong plan there. Austin Theory has definitely been pushed into the background. That is a fact. It's very different from what we were looking at with Vince McMahon. Very different indeed. And I like that. Undoubtedly, his time will come in some capacity, but now is not the time to do so. Karrion Kross, I don't personally feel will interfere. I think we're more likely to see him on Raw the next night or on SmackDown following up. To be fair, Drew McIntyre and SmackDown now makes more sense. But when Drew comes out and basically says, you found a way out of it, and then suddenly we have Karrion Kross. Kross versus McIntyre is our match going into Extreme Rules. That's right. What I expect. That's what I've been talking about in these channels for a little while on spoiler warning. So that's what I personally see going there. But I also don't see Roman winning clean. I think this may end up as an overbooked mess. I've got to be completely honest with you.
Okay.
I see Sami. I see Kevin Owens. I don't see any sort of affiliation with Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
But I think what we were seeing on Monday suggests, and I've spoken about this, a face turn for Kevin Owens. The rebirth and potentially in future a tag team. I would love to see Owens and Zayn taking on the Usos. I absolutely would. So I think that storyline is also serving this. So why not have both together? I don't necessarily want it, but overbooking is sort of a Triple H thing.
Yeah, what I think we're describing is there's going to be 2 differences of philosophies heading into this show. One is either going to be, with all due respect, a UK pay-per-view, or it's going to be a landmark show. And I do think that's the differences of philosophy for them of how they're entering into this. Is this going to be Rebellion, or is this going to be SummerSlam 92? That's the difference.
That's a really good point. I remember Rebellion. My word, what the hell was that? The main event was what? The Rock, Stone Cold, Undertaker, and Triple H. Good stuff. Good stuff. No possibility of any championship changing hands. It was a house show.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas SummerSlam 92, very different element. It seems to me they want to present something that could become regular. They want to show they're serious. But at the same time, that's just a theory. What can I say?
I think they should go all in.
You want to go all in, do you?
I think it's a dynamite approach. What? What? I mean, talk about a host that leaves dead air. Goodness. Who gave this man a YouTube channel?
I gave this man a YouTube channel. and the people who watch gave me a YouTube channel. So I will claim victory on that one.
Is this what you do on your show? You peacock like this? It's like the March of the Peacocks.
A little tiny bit. You kind of have to.
Honey, there ain't a whole lot of turquoise in that peacock, let me tell you.
Well, yeah, you have a much more colorful behind than I do, don't you?
Well, in many ways than one.
In so
many more ways than one.
I'd like to thank you, Nick, for coming on and joining the show.
I have fun. You know, I always have fun. I was disappointed. I thought the people were going to be here, Tom. I was ready. Look at me while I was dressed like this. Tom, it is 6:34 p.m. I have been at this school since 6:30 a.m. this morning, moving students in. First day, we're back. We're college. We're up and going. So I'm glad to be here with you. I'm not rested. I'm not calm. I am not happy. But I was here for you and these people. So you know what they can do? They can give me a follow at Nicholas Barbati, NicholasBarbati. If I don't get more than 10 followers off of this, I mean, I'll still come back, but I won't be happy about it.
And if he does get those 10 follows, Nick will be joining us right after Clash of the Castle live for a post-show and a live recording of Nick and Tom's Intercontinental adventure for PWTorch. So be sure to check that out. He will be joining us right after the watch party. Like, we'll go to a screen and then I'll make the brief change and we'll be live before you know it. So if he does get the 10 follows, who knows? We may see more Nick.
Well, if I get the 10 follows, let me tell you, I might think who I am. Can you imagine?
Or you're going to peacock then? You're going to come on and just be like, oh, you can't afford.
Guess who got 10? Guess who got the 10?
You're going to come on and be like, you can't afford me anymore. I don't know why you're asking me. Why are you asking me? And of course, we will be hosting a watch party for Clash at the Castle, starting a half hour before the show starts. So a half hour into the pre-show. Also, if you'd like to check out more, we do have an update on the Sasha Banks and Naomi return schedule that will be on screen now, as well as a deep dive into exactly what happened with Bray Wyatt, with some news as well on discussions with the WWE since. So I'd like to say thank you one last time, Nick. I've been Tom Colohue. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.